Hello creatures, my name's Chloe. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which I'm filming this video today. I would also like to acknowledge elders both past and present. So today I'm filming my August wrap-up. August was a fantastic reading month. I found some new favourites and I also read 33 books. So this is going to be one of those ones where I try and get through the books as fast as I can because there are a lot. That said, I am hoping to beat that in September. 33 books is the second highest amount I've read in a single month. I have 2 months where I did that. I would really like to get to 35 books, which would top my best, which is obviously 34. So that's what I'm going to try and do in September, while also finishing my thesis and building up my backlog of videos again, because I didn't film for a week and now I'm behind again. I like to have at least 1 or 2 weeks of content planned out and filmed and ready to go. I don't have that right now. So this is part of me trying to get back on track, basically. But I've been very busy, so it might take me a little while, but I am really hoping to hit that reading goal and catch up on my Goodreads. I think I'm only 15 books behind on my challenge now. So the first book I read in August was Talking Pictures, Images and Messages Rescued from the Past by Ransom Riggs. This is a photo collection, sort of based on the same concept as his Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series, but there's no story intertwining them all. It's more a collection of photos that he finds interesting, and he sort of explains his philosophy a little bit around those photos. I didn't give this a rating. It didn't feel like it was the kind of thing that needed one or could really have one. It's just really a collection of photos with a foreword and a couple of notes, basically, so I didn't give that one a rating. The next book I read was Heroicus by Philostratus. This I read for university. It's an ancient text talking about hero cult. I'm not going to go into it too far. I didn't give it a rating. I don't really give ancient books ratings very often. It was fine. I fairly enjoyed it. I think I'll be writing a major essay on it, actually. The Mysterious Study of Dr. Sex by Tamsin Muir. I really enjoyed this one. This is a short story set around the 6th house. It follows 2 of the characters from Gideon the Ninth. I'm not going to talk about them because I don't want to give anything away. I really enjoyed it. It was just a fun little story, a bit of a mystery, and it contextualized 2 of my favourite characters from the book. I didn't give it a rating. I don't always give short stories a rating, but I didn't quite know. I wasn't really sure. I think this is probably a 4 or a 5 star because I did really enjoy it, but I would like to read it again because I want to reread Gideon the Ninth, this, and then Harrow the Ninth. Like, I want to do a whole series binge at some point with this inside it, and I think on a reread of the first book, having read Dr. Sex, that it will be better, almost. Just because it's been a little while since I read Gideon the Ninth, and though I loved it, I've forgotten some stuff because I binge read it when I was in isolation, and that was a lot, so I do need to reread this. Warm Up by V. Schwab. This is another short story I read on Tor's website. This is the prequel short story to her Vicious series. Didn't give it a rating. Too short for me to explain, it'll ruin it, but it was quite good. I enjoyed it. So the next book I read was With a Twist by Stacey Hart. This is the first book in her Bad Habits series. This centres around a ballerina named Lily. When her longtime crush Blaine, a fellow ballerino, becomes available, she's thinking it's finally her chance to get with her crush and have it be amazing, but things aren't going exactly how she hoped they would, and she starts to develop feelings for her best friend West, and hijinks ensue. I've been reading my way through Stacey Hart's books for a little while now. She's got an Austen series that I'm really enjoying, a Bennett Brothers series, which is Gender Bent, Pride and Prejudice stories, and then she's got the Bad Habit series, and they're all interrelated and sort of in order. I've been trying to fill it in. I liked this, it was fine. There were a few things that I found a bit meh about this book, which is fine. Stacey Hart's writing has definitely improved. This got 4 stars from me. It was fluffy and cute, nothing particularly memorable, but it wasn't bad, and it certainly wasn't a 3, so that's why it's been given a 4. Big Damn Hero by James Lovegrove. This is the first book in the Firefly novels based on the Joss Whedon TV show. I enjoyed this book. I actually did a full reading vlog of all the Firefly books, which is why I've grouped them together in this wrap-up, even though I didn't read them in this order. If you're interested in the order I read my books, go and check out my Goodreads. But I enjoyed this. It was fine. There's more thoughts in my reading vlog, which is probably the easiest place to go, but it was fairly meh. I only gave it 3 stars. It was the same for The Magnificent Nine, which is the second book in the novel series, also by James Lovegrove. It was okay. Same sort of thing. I liked it. I probably liked The Magnificent Nine a little bit better. Lots of telling, not much showing. Once again, check out the vlog. That's probably the easiest place for you to go. Those Left Behind. This is the first comic book in the Serenity series. These are a series of comic books set between the TV show Firefly and Serenity. Quite good, but the first one was a bit lackluster. I found the art style, while it was nice, it was hard to follow what was actually happening on the page, and it was so short. I did feel it could have done with a little bit more work. but 3 stars is still very respectable. Better Days is the second comic book in this series. Both of these were also in that reading vlog, by the way, so just go and watch that. But I really love this. This is my favourite of all the Firefly stuff I've read so far. It got 5 out of 5 stars. Really good. Once again, between Firefly and Serenity. I'm not going to say too much more because A, I don't remember that much, and B, I don't want to spoil it. So I really enjoyed it. I would highly recommend going and checking these out. Fence Rivals. This is volume 4 of the Fence series by C.S. Picard that is illustrated by Joanna the Mad. I really love these. I love them so much. I'm very, very sad that there's no announcement yet, as far as I could find, about the next volume. Fence is slow burn, and I think it's enemies to lovers, gay boarding school romance. Sport romance, maybe. It's really, really good. I really like it. I like the competitive aspect of the boys. I like how slow it is to start off with. It's got a really nice rhythm to it. I'm really, really enjoying this series. I don't know if I'm going to be reading the young adult novel that's coming out. I probably will because I love this world. But it isn't being written by C.S. Picard. It's being written by Sarah Reese Brennan, which is a bit different, but I've never read her, so I might as well give her a try. Oh, this got 5 stars. This whole series has gotten 5 stars. It's top notch. I really, really love it. Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. Nimona is a young shapeshifter sidekick looking for a supervillain, and she goes out and finds one. Lord Ballister Blackheart was on the fast track to become a hero when something kind of derailed that plan. Now he is trying to be a supervillain, but he comes off more like a hero quite a lot of the time, and he and Nimona team up, usually with him trying to settle Nimona's impulses. I loved this. It was so lovely. Really, really beautiful story. Very, very good symbolism. It's queer. There is a romance at the core of this story. It's wonderful. I really, really love it. It got 4 stars out of 5. I did really enjoy it. It got 4 out of 5 stars. I would definitely read more from this author, though the art style wasn't to my usual taste. I still really liked it. Running Upon the Wires, Poems by Kay Tempest. This was fine. I don't remember much. It was good. It didn't leave a lasting impression, I'm just realising, because I can't remember any of the poems. I gave it 4 out of 5. It was something I found on Libby. It was okay. The Tower in the Sea by B. Muir. This was stupid of me. So I was looking for graphic novels on my library's system. I saw this one. It had a beautiful cover, so I put a hold on it. I read it, and as I was reading it, I realised it's the 3rd book. It was still really good. It didn't actually matter that much. It was fine, but it probably would have been better if I'd read the first 2 to begin with. Very pretty story, beautiful illustration. It's like a watercolour style. So the idea for this series is sort of their quiet mysteries set in a world of magic. A young person is attending an illegal divination school of magic, and they start having prophetic dreams of something terrible happening to a city across the ocean. Not explaining any more than that because it will ruin it. So even reading this out of order, it got 4 out of 5 stars, and I've since read the first 2 books, which will come later in this wrap-up. I'm not raising my rating. I'm still happy with the 4 stars. But very good, very pretty, very good for kids, because they are super short, but also very, very lovely, and there's some really nice symbolism in them that I think is really cool. Lost at Sea by Brian O'Malley. This is a graphic novel about a girl named Raleigh who doesn't believe she has a soul. She joins 3 of her classmates on a road trip from California to Canada. I believe they're all from Canada and attending school in California, but I may have that around the wrong way. She doesn't really know them, but over the course of the journey they bond, and there's not a specific story in this. Like, I can't really tell you what it's about, but it's described as being about the space between being an adult and being a teenager, and the angst that can come with not quite knowing who you are yet. I found it really, really lovely. I don't love the art style. It achieves its ends, but I generally prefer more detailed sort of illustrations. That said, it was very good. I really liked it. This was another one that I just picked up because I was looking for more graphic novels. It got 4 out of 5 stars. I really loved the next one. It might be my favourite read of the month, to be honest, and that was Snot Girl Volume 1, Green Hair Don't Care by Brian Lee O'Malley, Leslie Hung and Mickey Quinn. This was so good. Okay, so Lottie Person is a fashion blogger with chronic allergies that she feels control her life. She keeps them hidden from her millions of followers on various blogs and Instagram and that sort of thing. And she gets tangled up with a girl named Caroline, and nothing is as it should be. I loved this so much. It was so beautiful. I immediately went and followed Leslie Hung. I can't get over how pretty it was. It's so stunning. I've got some videos planned around Snot Girl now because I'm such a fan. So good. I don't want to explain too much. I need to not talk about it anymore because I'll start to get spoilery. But I loved it a lot. And now, changing tack, we have the worst book I've ever read, Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. 1 star. I have a full-length rant review that I will link up above. That is all I'm going to say about this book. The October Man by Ben Aaronovitch. This is a Rivers of London novella that comes between books 7 and 8 in the series. This was wonderful, as always. I think I have yet to rate a Ben Aaronovitch book or novella anything less than 5 stars, and this was no exception. I loved it. This book is different. It doesn't feature the characters from Rivers of London. It features a detective named Tobias Winter who lives in Germany, and he's essentially Peter Grant's equivalent in Germany, which was really cool. Ben Aaronovitch puts a lot of effort into his settings, I know for a fact he was travelling through Germany researching this book. Same with his London books, there's so much detail, it's ridiculous, and it's the first time I've read a book, I think, set in Germany that was like overtly German and modern German, and I don't know, I would have to go to Germany to see, but it really felt like it captured the essence of the place. To me, that's what it felt like. It felt very different, which is what I wanted. It had a really cool story, a good mystery, 5 out of 5. Hunting Charles Manson, The Quest for Justice in the Days of Helter Skelter by Liz Wheel and Caitlin Rother. This is a true crime book that examines everything that happened with the Manson family murders and their various activities. I found this really interesting. I'm very interested in true crime, but it's a genre that I'm only just starting to dip my toe into. In a book sense, I watch a lot of documentaries on these kinds of topics, and this book was really, really good. I enjoyed it greatly. It went into a lot more detail with the family's other crimes that I was not actually aware of before now, and I've seen a lot of Manson documentaries, but the focus tends to be on the Tate and LaBianca crimes. This included 2 other murders that were just as important in the family's narrative. It was very good. The only thing that kind of annoyed me about this book is my mum was telling me a lot of books do this with the Manson family, but rather than refer to Manson's followers, the women, by their actual names, as most documentaries do, they were constantly referred to by their nicknames, and some of them would have 2 or 3 different nicknames. So a lot of the time I wasn't quite sure who the author was referring to when she was talking about a particular woman. That was a little bit difficult, particularly because there were so many different women. There were names I'd never come across in all my many hours of documentary watching. It was really good. I would recommend it. I am planning on reading another Manson book very soon, written by the prosecutor of the case, which I think will be really good. Witchlight by Jessie Zabarski. This is a graphic novel. I believe it's young adult, I think. I really enjoyed it. It was very pretty. A girl in a small town gets kidnapped by a witch. The witch Lelek kidnaps a peasant girl named Sanya, and as they travel together looking for Lelek's soul, she and Sanya become progressively more entwined and intertangled until their narratives are irreversibly fused. While this isn't overt FF, it could be read as friendship. I read it as an FF relationship. It was beautifully subtle, really lovely, absolutely gorgeous art style. Loved it. 4 out of 5 stars. D. Grey Man, Volume 1 by Katsura Hoshino. This is the first volume of the D. Grey Man manga. I've seen 1 episode of the anime, I think. My partner made me read this. He has over 20 volumes. He's not that big of a reader, but he's wanted me to read this for a while, and I was sitting there and I read like 3 books in front of him because I think I was reading graphic novels, and he said, "You've got no excuse, you have to read this." And I actually really liked it. It was a bit weird. I've not dipped my toe into heaps of manga before, but I liked it. It was really interesting storytelling, very gothic influence, steampunk stuff, sort of. I don't know how to describe it properly. It was really good. I liked it. I am planning on watching the anime, and I am going to keep going with volumes because I have access to them, so I might as well read them. And I've been meaning to read some manga for a while, but I wasn't quite sure where to start, so this is my starting point. It got 4 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy it. Marine Biology by G.L. Carragher. This is a short story that comes before the San Andreas Shifter series. I've been aiming to read everything Gail Carragher has ever written over the course of this year. I think I started with Solace in like January or February, and I've worked my way through all of her works, so now I'm up to San Andreas Shifters, which is her modern queer romance series. Really good. This short story was good. I didn't give it a rating because I did feel it was very short and a little bit insta-lovey, but enjoyable nonetheless. It was 99 cents. Or you can get it free when you sign up to her email list, but I'd already paid for it, hadn't I? Noisemakers, 25 Women Who Raised Their Voice and Changed the World. This is a graphic collection from Kazoo. It's credited to Erin Breed as the editor, but there were lots of different contributors. This entire collection, it's a set of graphic stories for children. Each woman featured in the book, her story was illustrated by a different person, and all the artists are either women or non-binary people. It was a really good collection. Some of the art was better than the others, obviously. I ended up rating it 4 stars overall because I felt for what it was and who it was aimed at, it was excellent. And I really think this would be good for little girls who maybe don't have that much confidence. And there are a range of stories and ethnicities and goals laid out in this book. I thought it was really great. So now we have the Sumage Solution, the Omega Objection, and the Enforcer Enigma. These are the paranormal queer romances from Gail Carriger that I was mentioning. She does write under GL Carriger for this series. The first book in this series got a 3 from me. I did feel that Gail Carriger was very much finding her... I did very much feel that Gail Carriger was sort of finding her feet with the Sumage Solution. I really liked the relationship at the centre of it, but it was very quick. It was a very fast developing relationship. Some of it was a little bit clunky. I wasn't as used to the style. I definitely prefer her historicals. But it was still very good, which is why it got a 3. And the next 2 books both got 4 stars, which I do think has some to do with the writing and the style improved, but also my expectations of the series changed. These aren't intended as big overarching stories with a lot of relationship development at the beginning. These tend to be relationships that start super fast and then move into working through the problems inside that relationship. They are also fairly smutty, so a content warning. If you don't like sex scenes, don't read this. Gail Carriger does have something to that effect in each of her books. Just, if you don't like it, don't read it. That said, I did really like these. I do think the insta-love I didn't mind as much because in Gail Carriger's world there is that concept of werewolf mating, but I think their choice has a lot more to do with the mating process than it does in a lot of other stories, so those strong feelings tend to be intensified, which is, I would say, the justification for these being such fast relationships, but I still really liked it. I am planning to do an entire author wrap-up of Gail Carriger very soon because I've now read all of her books, basically. She does have one more coming out in October, but I do want to release this 2020 version first of all her fiction. Snot Girl Volume 2, California Screaming, and Snot Girl Volume 3, Is This Real Life? I loved both of these. They continued Lottie's story from the first volume. Can't say too much without spoilers. You get into the dynamics with her ex-boyfriend and the ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend and her closest friends, and her assistant, and Caroline pops up, and it's a whole thing. Both of these got 5 stars. They're beautiful. I really, really loved them. I think the cover of the second one might be my favourite. I haven't decided yet. But they're really good. I do really want to buy these, but I was also thinking, oh no, should you just wait until it's finished and then see what you can get? So I don't know what I'll be doing, but I will be getting them at some point. Ismire and Terrible Means. These are both by B. Muir, who wrote The Tower in the Sea, which I'd already read. These are the first 2 books in the Ismire series. They are very, very small standalone stories. Very nice, not a ton of narration, but quite pretty, quite good. I really like how they sort of theme each volume with a different colour. So Ismire is yellow, Terrible Means is pink, The Tower in the Sea is purple. I think they'd look absolutely beautiful on a shelf. I have featured these on my Instagram, I think, or if I haven't, I'm going to because they are so stunning. Each of these got 3 stars. I definitely think the third one was my favourite, but they were fine. They were okay. The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss. I loved this so much. It was so good. The basic concept is Mary Jekyll's mother passes away. Her father has been dead for many years and she's left basically penniless. In the process of exploring her family's personal finances and trying to figure out how she and her household are going to survive, she comes across an account that is being paid for the care of someone named Hyde. To her knowledge, Edward Hyde went missing around the time her father died, but when she gets to the place she finds it is a young girl named Diana who is allegedly her half-sister. We sort of continue on this mystery thread. She meets other girls who were the children of famous inventors, famous scientists, and we sort of develop a motley little crew of girls whose lives were controlled and in some cases almost destroyed by the men who claimed or were their fathers. I loved it. Sherlock Holmes and John Watson also feature in this story, and it's a version of Sherlock that I particularly enjoy. It was really, really good. It was 5 stars. I'm very excited because the second book in the series is waiting for me at the library right now, and I get to go and get it this afternoon. I didn't go to work yesterday, so I was going to get it then and read it on the bus home, but I couldn't. So I'm probably going to be returning a few different books that I had planned on reading just so I can make space for this, because I really, really, really want to read it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I feel like I should probably save it, and yeah, I loved it. Go read it. It was top notch. Magnus Chase and the Ship of the Dead by Rick Riordan. This is the final book in the Magnus Chase series, and the only one that I hadn't read before. I've been doing a reread of these very, very slowly, trying to finish off the Rick Riordans I own, because I also have the Whole Trials of Apollo series, and I think I've read the first and second one. Can't remember any of them, and it was kind of the same with this. So I'm reading all of these to decide if I'll keep them or not. I think I am going to keep Magnus Chase, because as much as I do prefer Percy Jackson, these are still great. I really enjoyed it. This, there's no real proper way to explain this book without spoiling it. It's them staving off the start of Ragnarok, which is naturally where this would go. It was really, really good. It actually ended up being my favourite of the series, which is really nice. I find it's quite rare that the final book is my favourite. Usually I like a bit of build, or I like the very beginning of a series, but this was top notch. The previous 2 books got 4 stars each. This got 5. Very good, really good development with Samira, Magnus, and Alex in particular. I felt they all really, really shone in this book, and so did Magnus's other floor mates, his other brethren from Hotel Valhalla. They got more of a role in this series. We learn more about them, and I think that's what I'm missing from this now that I've been thinking about it. The secondary characters don't get fleshed out as much as they do in Percy Jackson, which makes sense because there's 5 books in Percy and only 3 in this, but that is what I was missing, so this was brilliant. I would highly recommend you go and read this series, or your kid, if they like Percy Jackson, or maybe they're looking for a bit more diversity. There is Muslim representation in this. There is a relationship that I think is a queer platonic relationship. If you don't know what a queer platonic relationship is, I would definitely recommend going and looking into it. I'm pretty sure that's what happens in this. There's tons of representation in this book. Magnus was homeless before he entered Hotel Valhalla. The Valkyrie who sent him there is Muslim. She has what I believe is a very, very good arc. She's actually fasting for Ramadan in this book. I will say, Rick Riordan has acknowledged he did make a mistake about Ramadan in this book. It says you can't bathe, which I believe he's come out and said was one particular interpretation rather than a blanket rule. So he does have a blog post about that if you're interested after reading this book. Alex Fierro has some fantastic representation as a gender fluid trans character. Alex was actually the first gender fluid character I ever read, and I feel that this book makes a really good introduction for kids who might not be familiar with the concept or might have trouble switching pronouns. I know that's something that we as a society need to get more comfortable doing, is adjusting to pronouns as they're needed, and I think this is a really good primer for it because it explains it really clearly in kid language, and that's what we need. So I really liked this. I would recommend it. I would be really interested if other people could let me know their opinions on the representation in this book, because I'm not gender fluid, I'm not Muslim, I'm not trans. I'm also not in a queer platonic relationship, so I would love to know what you think of the rep in this book. As far as I can tell, it's fairly good. Oh, this might be like my other favourite book of the month. It was such a good month for graphic novels. I purposefully hung on to this book after I'd finished it so I could feature it in the wrap-up because it's so pretty. Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. This is by Mariko Tamaki and Rosemary Valero O'Connell. It was so good. I read it on the bus home after I picked it up. I'd wanted to read it for ages and they finally got it in at the library. Look how pretty it is. It's so gorgeous. It's beautiful finishes. It's FF. It's so good. It's really all about learning how to get out of toxic relationships and the impact that those relationships can have on your friends and your family. It's really good. It was so, so good. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. It's definitely one of my favourite art styles ever, just because even though the illustrations aren't typically what I would go for in the style itself, the whole format of the book is pink, black and grey with white, obviously, which I love the effect of. It's so pretty. This book does have trigger warnings for abortion, which I was not aware of before I went into it, so that is something to be aware of. I think it had really, really lovely themes. It was so good. Go and read it. It's brilliant. I really want to buy a copy, but I don't have space, and I've committed to trying to only buy really special editions. So, yeah, I'm going to leave this for the time being. I'm not going to buy it, but I really want it. It's beautiful. Oh, and the titles, they're all embossed, so it's perfect. Though I must say, having the cover look like this makes me wonder, like, oh, what could it have looked like if the whole thing, like the whole story was done in this style? I love it. So good. The last book I read in the month of August was The Case of the Missing Marquis by Nancy Springer. This is the first book in the Enola Holmes series. This has been on my TBR for a long time, but I finally picked it up because of the movie coming out. They only had large print editions at my library, which I've discovered I really don't like reading. It's fine, I don't like reading big text, though I do think these books have their value. I'm not saying they don't. They're fantastic for people who might have vision difficulties, dyslexia, they might be children, etc. They're just not for me, personally. Now, this book, I really like the concept, but I feel the execution was fairly poor. It's written in a very this style, which is fine. It is a children's book. I was going to rate this 4 stars. I've chosen not to because it repeatedly uses a slur. And it's a slur that refers to the travelling communities of Great Britain, the Roma, Irish travellers. It's one of those words, which contextually, considering this is a book set in the 19th century, I can understand why the author included it. I'm not saying she should have, but I understand it. But on page 83 of this, there's a line here that she talks about the travellers. The men darkly ignored me, but some of the bare-headed, bare-necked, bare-armed women waved back, and all of the ragged children waved and squealed and called out, begging. Shameless, dirty, thieving lot, Mrs. Lane would have called them. And I suppose she was right. Enola then goes on to say that she would have given them money regardless, but this sort of language doesn't need to be used regardless of those views being held historically by white people. It's completely unnecessary. It is okay to have a character who doesn't use slurs. It's okay to have a character that sees the value in people, regardless of what their society believes. Like, Enola's views aren't challenged, and I know they wouldn't have been challenged in that time, but for me it seems irresponsible to put that kind of language in a children's book and then not have that view challenged at any point. I know that travellers do feature in the other books, going by some of the titles and the descriptions. I am going to continue reading. I will be putting full reviews up with trigger warnings on my Goodreads, and hopefully the representation will get better and these problematic views will be challenged, but it made me really uncomfortable, so I put this down to 3 stars. I think I might even put it down to 2. I enjoyed the story, but it was clunky in some places, and the racial slurs were enough to make me very uncomfortable. Travellers have asked us not to speak that way, so why should we? And that should have been applied in this book, and it hasn't been. This is an award-winning text, and I don't think that's okay. So those are all 33 books that I read in the month of August. Let me know what you read in the month of August down below in the comments. I'd be really interested to know. Let me know what you think of these books. Let me know if there's any books that you think I should read based on these books. All my social media links are down in the description box below. Subscribe if you want to, like it if you did, and I will see you soon in my next video.